Hey, it's BT with Tales from a Gemini. I'm so excited. First of all, it's about the day after my birthday, man. And my birthday was great. Set it off great. It started out last Tuesday. I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and I did a track day at California Superbike School. And this all comes around full circle because California Superbike School, I'm trying to be a better rider. And it's amazing because my guest today is the Deion Sanders of riding. This guy, there's not a type of riding he hasn't done. He's the Cycle News moto journalist. Like I said, I call him the Deion Sanders. He didn't choose the bike life. The bike life chose him. This guy won Pikes Peak. I have producers here. They don't do a damn thing, Rennie, but they don't know what Pikes Peak is. It's one of the hardest races ever. This guy won it. I saw the video. I was damn near in tears, man, because it was so emotional. But anyway, he needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest for today, Mr. Rennie Scaysbrook. Rennie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, how's things?
Things are great. Like we were just talking before the show, I was like, why aren't we best buddies? I'm looking you up. I'm trying to get some, a little info, a little intel on you. And I'm going, this guy rides everything. He's having a ball. I mean, it's like, I remember watching you give an interview, a little bit of a snippet of an interview, and you were like, I just can't imagine what life is without motorcycles. And I'm like, yes. To me, my life is A, B, and BB. After bikes and before bikes. And to me, and after you ride a motorcycle, I don't know how you can't be addicted.
Yeah, I mean, my life is always AB, like from the time when I first popped out. Come from a bike fan. My mum always said to me that she didn't give birth to me, I rode out.
But you know what? We'll tell people that because I looked it up, and what was so amazing, it's not so much, and no disrespect to your grandpa or your mom or your dad, they rode, but I thought what was fascinating was your mom rode. She didn't just ride, she raced.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm third generation now, but yeah, mum used to race back in the, early 70s or so, and raced the CB 500, Honda CB 500 in production races in Sydney. And Dad's a pretty famous racer back in the day. Grandpa was a motocross champion, and so it's sort of like
it's in your blood.
I kind of fell into it, really. I didn't really have much of a choice.
Like I said, the bike life chose you, man. You had no choice but to get on the motor. When mom rides, that's when I go, that's a serious family. I saw that picture of your mom, hair coming out of the back of her helmet. I'm like, this lady is badass.
Yeah, she rocks, man. Yeah, she's got an NTO7 Yamaha now. And she sold she had a Ducati Monster for a while, and then she sold that, bought the NTO7, and man, she's so many miles on that thing. It's crazy. Just loves it. It's pretty cool.
That is that how your mom and dad met? Is that how they met?
Yeah, well, my mum and dad met because my dad used to own a Honda dealership in Sydney, and mum bought the Honda in for servicing, and rest is history.
and Dad put the Mac Daddy on her. Is that what he did?
Yeah. Okay. You that way, bike that way.
So how did Dad do it then? I mean, how did he keep his professionalism, but somehow would you like to ride together? Or would you maybe tea? Or
I have no idea. I don't want to know, man. I'm just the end result.
So you don't want to know that mom could have me too, Dad. You never be here. You don't want to know that.
Totally, yeah, no way.
Man, that is so great. Okay, so now you're born. So you're by the way, you're from Sydney, Australia, and that's why I knew this interview was going to be. I called you yesterday just to touch base, and when I heard the accent, I go, yeah, it's going to be good. For some reason, I get along with you Aussies. I don't know what it is about you Aussies and bike riding. What is it about you Australians? And you guys have the biggest balls when it comes to riding bikes, man. You guys put it out there. Jack Miller, the Lawrences, Chad Reed. I mean, what is it about Australians and motorcycling?
I don't know. I've thought about this a lot. We have a bit of a smaller population considering the size of the country. If you put Australia and America over top of each other, they're roughly the same size, but we have 10% of the American population. Right, there's 20. I don't actually know. It's about 30 million or so people in Australia. So we have a lot of space to go riding, and there's a really cool scene in everything from road racing to motocross to freestyle motocross. We've got some of the best freestyle motocross riders in the world, like Josh Sheehan and Robbie Madison and all those boys. And there's a little bit of a screw loose mentality, I think, for someone. Kind of like, oh, well, screw it, let's go and see what happens. And but yeah, especially like where I'm from, within 2 and a bit hours north and south, there's been some serious riders that have come out of that area. I mean, Chad Reed and Casey Stoner, the Cudlin brothers, and down south you got Jane the Marmont brothers, the Goberts, Josh Brooks, Crew Halliday, guys that are, and then you go a bit the other way, and a few hours west you got Toby Price, and
my God, I love Toby Price.
The factory sort of churns on pretty well, and then you go fully the other direction. You go all the way north, and you get guys like Jack Miller, and there's a whole bunch of guys that have came out. I think Mitch Evans, the motocross Grand Prix racer, like they're all from up that way, and so there's a lot of areas to ride. There's a lot of cool places to go and see, and we like being outdoors, so we like riding bikes.
And do you have a rider envy? With all that talent there, do you have like rider envy? Like, do you feel like you should have been like, man, I could have been one of those guys. I could have been a contender. I should be a household name.
One of the most humbling things I ever did was be on the same track at the same time as Chad Reed.
Oh, and, how did that go? How did that go?
That was awful. Like, I mean, he and I used to be in the same club when we were juniors, and we actually didn't race together. We had practice together because he was so much faster than everybody else that he actually got bumped up a couple of grades when he was a junior. And he came past me and just sucked the stickers off the bike. It was just like, I got nothing for this guy, man. This is ridiculous. And then he just made the rest of Australia look like that. And then he came over here and ended up being Chad Reed.
The rest is history. God. And that was a motocross, right? That was a motocross, right?
Yeah. That was actually not far from where Casey Stoner and all those guys grew up. It was in that same kind of little area, West Wyalong, I think it's called, West Wallsend, sorry, one of the two. But there was a lot of good riders that came out of that factory, that's for sure.
Okay, so let's go back to the genesis. When did you first set your foot over a bike?
I was, I think I was 3.
3.
So I got my first bike on my 5th birthday, but I was riding a friend's little Honda QR50, the little Honda equivalent of the Pee-wee.
Yes.
Rode that thing for a bit. Got my first bike at 5 and started doing just like little friendly competition things at the local track when I was 7 or 8. And it was always just a fun thing. Like my old man had sort of gone in and out of racing and had been very successful in his own right, but it was never going to be racing was never going to be a profession. Like it was like we kind of lived in one way we sort of lived to suburbia really for the racing. We didn't really have the money to fund it on a professional level. Mm-hmm. Like there's all the things, and it was just my parents wanted to keep riding as a fun thing, which I was kind of happy about because, like, at the time I wasn't, but like, as you get older and you get a bit wiser, I've got a 4-year-old boy now, and I see the logic in what they were trying to do, and it's sort of the good thing is that it kept the love of going it,
yes.
It's always there, and so I just kind of. I actually fell out of bikes for a couple of years when I was in my early 20s. I didn't ride for a couple of years.
What happened? Did you go to jail? Were you locked up? What happened?
No. That coincided. Like I'd stopped road racing, and I did road racing. I tried to be a road racer pretty seriously for a couple of years. Basically ran myself broke, and at the same time, one of my friends, my close mates, was passed away in an accident, and in a racing accident, and I don't know, it just kind of coincided with the, hey, I'm 20 years old, I'm going out partying phase, and bikes didn't really, and I was living in a house with a bunch of people and got really into music, and I just was like, whatever. I had 2 years, and by the end of, sorry about that, my phone's just being off there.
No worries.
Had 2 years off, and then I my friend that I was living with at the time, we were both like, when he was like my first bike friend from when we were 7 years old. He's still my best friend now. And we were just like, what the hell are we doing? And then we just went straight out and bought super bikes. And then it all kicked off again. That was about 20 years ago.
Okay, so tell me, during that phase that you were out of bikes and you were living in a house and partying, tell me you didn't buy a guitar. You were that guy who bought a guitar and would sit and make up a folk song so girls could go, oh my God. Were you that guy?
I got into DJing.
Did you really?
Yeah. I started playing clubs and all that, and I got super into it. Like, I mean, I spent every spare cent I had on records and whatever. And
what was your music? What was your favorite music at the time? Your favorite music at the time?
It was all hard trance music.
Yes, that's my favorite music now. Like, who was your favorite?
Oh, geez, back in the day, probably Jam X and DeLeon. DJ Dean. A lot of guys out of Germany that had basically, they're all sort of past the game now. Like Cosmic Gate, they're still around. They were a big sort of influence. And it's sort of, I've actually funnily enough started to get back into it. And it's in the pandemic, just like bought a whole bunch of equipment again and started doing it again.
No, you're serious?
I want the boy to start playing a bit as well, because the boy's so obsessed with riding that I want him to try and do something else.
yeah, but I mean, honestly, what you should do, the way the technology is now, you should try to incorporate the sound of a motorcycle starting with that boom, boom, and call it beats, bike beats. That's what you call it, bike beats. You have a whole album just boom, boom, woo, woo, boom, boom, woo, woo. How great would that be? I'm telling you, Rennie, come on.
You got the idea, man. You got to trademark that.
Dude, the start of a Ducati, matter of fact, that's my ringer on my phone when people call me, is a Ducati starting up. At the sound of a Ducati starting up. Yeah, the MotoGP Ducati starting up. So if you take that to start the song off like, whoa, and then you put a boom, 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 boom. Come on. How great was that? And then do a MotoGP after party, and you're spinning records, and people know you because you're a legend, bro. So they would give you that ultimate respect. I'm telling you, man, Red Bull after party, you spinning records. They go, wait a minute, Rennie is at the after party? He's spinning records? I mean, the bike beats guy? Oh, we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go, man. Winning. Good formula.
dude, I'm telling you, man. When we get off of here, I want you to think about that. I want you to think about it. How great would that? And they'd have a song called Two-Stroke Love, and just kind of boom, 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 boom. How great would that be?
You're winning. I mean, you could even throw it another way and just do like an electric bike where you just have run that over a beat.
It's a whole track of you not hearing anything. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's all in mind.
It's a whole track of you not hearing a damn thing. Like, what was that? Oh, that was the electric race bike beat.
It was a fast track too.
Man, that would be so great. The reason I say the the two-stroke song is I just bought, and I think that's why I'm connecting with it, is that I just bought me a YZ 125, 2006 YZ 125 nice. Two-stroke. Nice. I can't wait to ride. It's getting my mechanic's looking it over, but I got all the gear. I'm so ready. Right. I'm so ready.
I got one of those for when I was 16. My old man bought me 98 YZ 125. That was my last new dirt bike before I went road racing.
That's okay. If you had to pick any discipline, because you've done it all, and we'll get to the journalism part. You've done it all, but if you had to pick a style of riding, what would it be?
One bike, you say?
No, a style of riding, because you've done the road racing, and you've done motocross. What would it be?
Road racing for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I always loved motocross, but I just sucked at it. Like, it was awful, dude. Like, I love going and watching moto. Like, I went out to the AMA National the other day out at Parlour, and I love the physical aspect of motocross, but I'm just crap at it. So after I started to get into flat track and like the speed of it. And back in Australia, we ended up, there was a race series which was all about, it was grass track motocross. So we would go out to these guys had these huge paddocks, and they would set up these like 2 mile long natural terrain motocross courses.
Yes.
As hell. And I always did well at those things because it was just like hold the thing on the stops, and when other guys were backing off, I was still going, and I was like, the hell with this, I want to get a road race. And so I got into doing that, and it's worked out good in that the job sort of helps that side of things because of, I'm always on a road bike, so I get more used to riding road bikes, and obviously riding on the street is different to riding on a track, but the similar sort of skill set in a way, and I've just managed to get better at it, I guess, just through doing more than anything. But that, and I've got a supermoto downstairs, and that's, I think, in terms of sheer fun level,
yes,
it's pretty hard to beat, man. Like
yes.
Supermoto went wild. So it's just in terms of just like laugh your ass off fun, man, Supermoto's awesome.
Okay, so let's go with that. Now, when did you decide to become a moto journalist? I mean, you were finding yourself during your hippie stage where you weren't riding, then you finally got back into superbikes. So when did you become like a moto journalist and want to write about bikes?
Well, I'd actually, bit of a whole like life sort of awakening, I guess, at the time. I was a mechanic for my actual, again, family is, to give you a bit of background, my family's been involved in writing for a very long time. Dad's a very accomplished writer and actually has his own magazine. But it was never to sort of follow what Dad did. I just liked writing. And so I actually backpacked around Europe in 2006 and went to a bunch of races, a bunch of MotoGPs and whatever. And I ended up writing these really long emails back to friends back home. And then guys were saying, oh, that was actually entertaining. I was like, okay, cool. I didn't think anything of it. And then my then girlfriend I was living with at the time, she was a secretary at one of the big colleges in Sydney that was very renowned for journalism. And I was a mechanic at the time, and I hated every second of it. It was just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
And I'd been qualified for a few years, so it was very difficult to get out of it because you went from earning no money as an apprentice to all of a sudden earning pretty good money. And then you're like, well, hang on, I've just done all this work. How do I get out of this? And I was like, well, the only way I'm going to change my life is if I change my life, really. Yeah. And so I negotiated with the job at the mechanics to do part-time, and then I started going to college. And within a year, like the diploma for journalism was 2 years, and within the end of the first year, I got offered a job to be a junior at a magazine. And I went into the careers counselor and I said, look, I've been offered this job. What do you think? And he says, well, look, is this the job you want? I'm like, yeah. He goes, get out of here. I'm like, all right. So I signed the papers and off I went. And that was the end of 2007. And I managed to sink a pretty cool job at what was then called Rapid Bikes magazine. It's no longer around, which was all modified street bikes and super bikes and that kind of stuff. And I remember one of the craziest moments of my life. Like the first launch, like if anyone who's familiar with press, how the press kind of works is like a lot of launches get done for product launches. So you'll see us riding off in far off places and wherever. And I was sitting, I got my first launch was the first KTM superbike, the RCA superbike.
Yes, I've ridden that. Yes.
Yeah. So I got the first invite for that in Spain from Sydney. And I remember I got to the hotel, which is it's a very famous hotel on top of Malaga in Spain. It's in I've seen it in all over the world and in photos. And I remember sitting out on the bloody bench on the deck, looking over the countryside in Spain. I was like, man, 6 weeks ago, I was getting shat on by a bloody van with all the diesel oil dripping on my head. And I was like, hey, this is cool. I like this. so at that point, I was like, yep, never going back to that. So that was it.
That's beautiful. I mean, honestly, that's like it's almost like a life lesson in a way. I mean, I know it's like, I don't know if you realize that, but it's like you weren't really, I'm just prepared, but you weren't really happy. You didn't really care for what you're doing. And then you kind of fell into that. And that's where you went like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, it was kind of like you had to. I always liked the process of writing and creating and that kind of stuff, and like marrying my love of motorcycles with the creative side, and but it was a definite like conscious decision that like if I don't stop doing this thing that's making me unhappy, then God knows what's going to happen in the long run. Because I'd already said to myself that as soon as I got qualified as a mechanic, I was going to leave. And that was 3 years prior to that because the money just became so good, it was impossible to leave. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to keep sitting there being like this, being miserable. And I was like, screw it. So I had 2 years of, because the first paying job at the Bike Mag was drastically less than what I was making as a qualified mechanic.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't care. I was rocking around on super bikes and getting flown around the world. And I think it was never doubted the decision for a second. So it was definitely the right way to go.
But it's so cliche when they say follow your passion and the money will follow. And it's like, and that's what you did. I mean, people don't realize how hard that is because there's a lot of people who were just like what you were doing, not really happy, but that job's going to pay a lot of money, and money really doesn't necessarily make happiness. And you weren't really happy. And then and like you said, you found your job. You weren't making a lot of money, but you were happy. You're riding bikes.
Sure. I mean, the funny thing was, like, it was the right time to do it as well. Like, ironically, like, the girlfriend I was with, we actually broke up, like, basically the week of me joining the college. So
What did you do? What did you do?
Yeah, I'm going to class now. But no, it was the right time because I didn't have any major financial commitments, didn't have family or any of that stuff. And it's like, well, this is going to be the easiest time. And then at the end of that year, I re-met my now wife. And like, so it was the right time to do it. It was, don't worry, like, trust me, it was tough. Like financially, it was like for a year, I didn't have anything. And I was back to what I was doing when I was a first year mechanic, but I was 23 at the time, 24. So, you kind of hope that by that stage you know how to tie your shoes and put your underwear on. And so at that stage, I was coming back to being a baby again. And, once I got through that, I was all right. But yeah, it was a conscious decision to make it work. And once I'd done it, it was a bit of a relief because once you commit to something, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to go back to being unhappy? You're going to do it. You may as well go full send on it. So that's what we did.
Dude. I mean, exactly. It's like I try to tell these people, and I always look for this when I do this show, is to try to have that story or that because everybody has a story to tell, and it's like that one moment. It's always that one moment in life where it's like, okay, you got to go all out. If not, then you're gonna be miserable. And you did it. You took that chance, and now look at you. I mean, honestly, You take a chance. Now look at you. You won Pikes Peak. I mean, I honestly, and this is where we connect, is that my bike is a 2016 multi-strata Pikes Peak. That's the bike. I swear to God, I was looking for what bike to get. I wanted to get a new bike. I was riding a Gixxer 750, which I loved, but I wanted to ride something different. I wanted something different. Everybody had a sport bike. Everybody had a Harley, and I wanted something in between. I knew I wanted to travel, but I still wanted to look sporty. And I was looking I saw the Honda Twin. I was like, okay. I saw the BMW. And when I saw that Pikes Peak multi-strata, my heart literally went like, when you see that woman of your dreams, you go, that's her. And I did that to that bike, and I saved up for years, and I finally got it. And man, it was like such an awakening. So, like I always tell people, I'm a wannabe. I mean, I'm a wannabe. That's why I love talking to you guys, because you guys did it. So what part of you said, I want to ride Pikes Peak, not even ride, but I want to race Pikes Peak and win it?
Well, I'm give you a bit of background. Like I moved to America in 2015, and like I think I landed here in March, and then in June of that year, what was Victory, Indian motorcycle.
Yes,
they were running at Pikes Peak with Don Canay, a cycle world journalist, and when Roland Sands built a bike for him, and the Project 156. And so India, or Victory, were also released. I don't know if you remember the Victory Impulse, the electric bike, the very short-lived electric bike they brought out, which is probably a good thing. they flew us all out to Colorado to go and ride this thing, and said, "Oh, by the way, we're going to Pikes Peak." And I was like, "Oh, sick," because I'd heard about it. Obviously I'd seen a lot of like I don't know if have you ever seen the climb dance video, the Ari Vartman climb dance video from back in the day?
No.
Oh, dude, you've got to see that.
Okay.
That's one of the coolest motorsport films ever made. It's a rally video of Pikes Peak back in when Pikes was all dirt, and they're driving I think it's a Group B or Group C rally car up Pikes Peak. It's just mind blowing. I remember watching that when I was, God, I must have been 10. It used to get shown on loop on Whitewater Sports in Australia, and I was like, that's cool. But I didn't know the bikes could race it. And then I actually found out a couple of years prior to moving out here that bikes could race it. So I sent off a couple of emails to the organisers and said, "Oh, how do I do this? I reckon it'd be fun." And anyway, they, usual bullshit of like, we've got to go and you got to have a team, you got to have this, you got to have that. And I had no idea what I was doing. So we turned up to Pikes in 2015, and I just saw the place and like, yep, doing that. And it was one of those things where I just knew I could do it, I guess. And because, this doesn't reflect real good on the law-abiding side of the job, but like we've had some pretty serious road rides about press launches and tested bikes or whatever, where like a few times if we'd been busted, it would have been pretty serious trouble. So I was already quite comfortable with going fast on the road, and I just saw that and I was like, man, that's cool. And as soon as I came back from that, I rang up KTM and said to them, I want to race the Super Duke at Pikes Peak. And nobody, shockingly to me, like no one had come up with the idea, because I was looking at the Super Duke and I'm like, that is the perfect bike for that thing. And
yes.
So I was like, I want to do it. And they were like, yeah, okay, cool. And that was back when there were a few racing budgets around, and KTM. I've been very lucky with my stuff with KTM and Aprilia, where it hasn't cost me anything. And I've had incredible sponsors to help me and make this sort of dream a bit of a reality. And so we went there the next year, myself and Tom Moen, who is one of the main guys in KTM USA, and it was just us out the back of a U-Haul van. And we rocked up there and put the thing on pole the first year.
Wow.
I should have won that one, to be honest, and I threw it into the wall at the top of Elk Park. And
how'd you do that? How'd you throw it into the wall? Because I watched the video of you going up. Well, just exactly how? Like, what'd you do wrong?
It was a classic case of not being prepared. It was a series of poor decisions throughout the day, and not being calm, not being in the right headspace at the time. So just a lot of little things that we'd screwed up, especially with timing things, because you've got to be, Pikes starts really, really early on race day. Like you're on the mountain at 3 a.m. kind of thing. And you're on the mountain at 4 a.m. for practices anyway, but it's a very high pressure kind of area. And, we weren't in the right spots at the time where we needed to be to tick this box and, cross that T. And so I rocked up to the grid and I wasn't really in the right headspace. And then I felt like I was doing very poorly in the first half, or first third of the run, but I was actually 5 seconds in front. And I came up to Elk Park as the first really scary corner. Like it's the first point where the trees basically fall away, and you really start to climb. And
wow.
You can go through there at, I don't know the speed exactly, but I went through there in like just flat out as fast as I could make the thing go. And I hadn't done that in practice before, because I was like, man, I've got to make up time. And I came through there and I got through it, but I got to the end of it and I was going about 60 mile an hour quicker than what I had previously in practice. So I was like, rah. And I basically I had two choices of like try to lay the thing down and just hope I don't, crush myself, or try and basically dirt track it into the hay bales and rebound off. And I almost managed, and I did it. I just hit the rear brake and just jammed on it and tried to drift it into the hay bales, and I almost managed to keep it up, but I sort of bounced off and then went over the cliff. And I didn't go over the cliff, but I was like leg on the edge kind of thing. And so, I mean, as far as crashing at that place, I just hit the complete jackpot. It could have been so much worse. And yeah, so that was a case of me just not being calm and not thinking things through. And so that was a big life lesson out of that one. And then, yeah, so we went back the next year. And that was really, really good fun, 2017, because we had Chris Fillmore, who's a really good friend of mine. And
yes,
the pressure was on him because Chris is the golden boy at KTM. Like, for me, all I had to do was be the backup player, and I knew it. So Chris had to break the record, and sure enough, he did. I backed him up, finished second, and between the two of us, we were the first two guys, I think, to go under 10 in the team. I don't know. I can't remember. There was some kind of weird record. But
so you were like his Scotty, like he was Michael Jordan. You were like his Scottie Pippen.
Kind of, yeah. A bit like that, basically, yeah. And, I mean, it was just so much fun because, like, all I had to do was not crash the thing and try and stick it on the box. And sure enough, we did. And so that was really good fun. And then the next year we had myself and Carlin Dunn go head-to-head. And yeah, Carlin beat me by 0.6 of a second. Which
wow. Oh, that must have hurt. That must have hurt.
Still does. But, I mean, Carlin was such a gentleman that you could never be annoyed at him. And it's just like he just beat me straight up. And
how long did that eat at you? How long did that eat at you? I mean, after it was over. I mean, like I said, when it's situations like that, of course you can't be mad at the person, and but it had to gnaw at you for that.
I hate losing. I mean, and to lose like by 0.6 of a second after 10 minutes, where you're putting your neck on the line for 10 straight minutes, is like, it's a pretty hard pill to swallow. But look, whatever. I mean, there's always a winner and there's always a loser, and that was the one, and that was me in the end. So there was a bunch of things that didn't go right that year. Like we had I still believe we had the wrong tire on there. There's a bunch of crashes that happened. So that's the thing too with Pikes, is like crashes and delays and all that stuff, because you're constantly worried about the weather, being on a mountain, obviously. So everything was looking real good, and there was a big crash, and then we waited for ages for this crash to be cleared. And as that time, this cloud just came over the top and just basically blanketed the bottom, the midsection of the circuit, dropped the track temperature right down. And at that point, the tire basically didn't work for the midsection. And and Carlin rode his ass off as well. And yeah, I mean, being the legend he is, he came up to me afterwards and said, "Look, that was the hardest he's ever had to ride there to beat me." So I guess that was a bit of a consolation, I guess. And then yeah, we won in 2019, but you know that was tinged with a lot of sadness, obviously. So
I don't know if you really want to get into that, but did you know beforehand or afterwards what had happened?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of weird because like our objective for that first year, or for the Aprilia, we knew that Ducati were going to turn up with basically a stripped Panigale, which is what they did. It was called the Street Fighter prototype or whatever it was, but it was a Panigale, a V4 Panigale with high handlebars on it, which meant they had to be put into the exhibition class. They had way more horsepower than we did, and on the Aprilia, we had a 210 Aprilia, which is a beautiful little bike, but it was in the same league engine-wise as what Carlin was running. So for us, the main thing was to win the heavyweight class and to try and get the record in the heavyweight class. Mm-hmm. Whatever happened in the overall is whatever happened. And so I got to the top, broke the record and all that, won the class. And so as far as I was concerned, it was job done. And I was expecting Carlin to come ripping across the line and to have broken the overall record. And, we would have sat there and sang Kumbaya together. But, I was doing the interview, and then because I can't remember if at the back of the grid they spaced them out further, but when you get to the last sort of 5 or 6 riders, they only space them out by a minute. Mm-hmm. It might be the same all the way through, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. So the gaps are, and obviously if the riders are faster, they're not going to close on the same rider in front as quickly as a guy maybe at the back who is quicker. So we would get to, I was sitting there doing an interview and I was like, hang on, this has been 5 minutes since I crossed the line. Like, where the hell's Carlin? And then, we saw the helicopter come over and I was like, oh, God damn it. And then, but then it's Chinese whispers sort of kept coming through and there were things that he was all right, that he had a broken leg, that he was wrecked, that he was like every bloody conceivable thing. And then, unfortunately, about 2 hours later, we got delivered the news, and it was bloody awful. So, really put a tinge on the whole event. For us, like, we worked really well. The Aprilia team worked really well as a team. Like, we had a real race team. That was the first time really that I'd had a proper full-blown team where I had crew chiefs and bloody data guys and chassis guys and mechanics and tyre guys and all this sort of stuff. It was a big team. And so for us, we achieved every objective that we wanted to. But, it doesn't mean it. It does. It does mean something because we did what we did. But, like, overall, like, everyone remembers it, and fair enough, too, for the passing of a great man. And it was a shame, too, because I just can't see maybe bikes ever getting back there, which is the last thing that Carlin would have wanted. So
now, is that why though? Is that why they're not gonna bring bikes back? Is it because of his accident?
Yeah, I don't know the actual administrative reason. I suspect that it's because of insurance. That's just my theory.
Yeah.
But I remember being told every practice session, I was like, because there had been a couple of deaths. Like, the last death was in 2015. There was very, very nearly another death in 2016. Ironically, at the same corner that I crashed at, but it was a different guy. And and there was a death in 2013 as well, I think. So unfortunately, it was a kind of a game where there were a lot of major injuries, and they were all bikes versus the car guys. So that sort of played against us a little bit. That, and I did feel a bit bad for the car guys, because every time the bikes would always get the best weather, which was from, I think it started at 8, and by the time it got to about 10:30 was when bikes were finished, and then it went from the slowest to the fastest bike, and then the fastest to the slowest car.
Okay. So
the fastest cars got the best weather. By 2 o'clock, like, the mountain was covered in cloud and it was raining, and it happens every single day. So all the guys that started at the bottom, and the car guys, never got to have a decent crack at the run, because they just tried to fit too much into the race.
Yeah.
Too many bikes. The bike should have been run on another day, and everyone would have been happy. But so there's a whole bunch of things, but I suspect it's probably because of the insurance, but who knows? I don't know if I'll ever find out, and to be honest, it doesn't really matter.
Now, is it a bittersweet kind of thing for you? Because you did win it, it was a goal achieved, but because of what happened, how does it play out in your mind? If you ever get in that quiet place and you think about, I won it, but there's also this happened.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard because Carlin and I were mates. We weren't going to give this running up to sing bloody Merry Christmas to each other, but we were good mates. We would go riding together. A week before we all went to Colorado. Myself and Chris and Carlin were out riding supermoto together, just hanging out and having fun. And he was such a lovely guy that. Look, you can look at it any way you want. I know what I risked to do it. We all put our necks on the line, and you kind of have to go into that when you do stuff like that, and maybe things like the TT or whatever it is, whatever else you want to do. You have to go into that mindset of it's not going to happen to me. So it's otherwise you'd never do it.
Right.
If you knew that you weren't going to get out of it at the end of it, you'd never put the helmet on. So with Carlin, I think I know that being the guy he is, would be buying me a beer. If he walked out of there with 2 broken legs, he'd be buying me a beer that night.
Yeah.
And that's just the kind of guy he was. But there will always be, you'll never be able to separate the two, really.
Yeah.
I'm happy that I won it. It wasn't the way I wanted to win it at all, but you can't change it, so it is what it is.
Now, you guys selected to go to the Isle of Man TT last year, but because of COVID, they didn't have it. So that had to be I mean, how did that play out? First of all, how did you get that, and how psyched were you to know you were going to race that race?
Well, I'm still going to. I'm going next year.
Oh, next year. Now, okay, I thought it was going to say a couple of weeks. I was like, oh my God. So yeah, next year. That's right. They canceled it again this year, didn't they?
Yeah. It was, man, talk about dragging it out. Like, by the time I go and do it, it'll be what, 3 years after 2019, 20. So yeah, it'll be 3 years after Pikes, which is a hell of a long time. And but yeah, I'll be doing it. I'm going to be riding the Super Sport TT for PRF Racing on Suzuki GT6Rs. And so that'll be great. Can't wait.
You got to be psyched. I mean, is that a dream come true? Is that like one of those little goals that like you didn't tell anybody, but secretly you were like, the Isle of Man TT, that's the one?
Well, it was one of I never thought I'd get the chance to do it. Like, I always wanted to do it. My dad actually did the race 3 times back in the 70s and early 80s.
Nice.
So, yeah, I always wanted to do it. I kind of thought that ship had sort of sailed at that point.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting the offer to go over in November of 2019, basically to see if I wanted to do it. Like the Isle of Man government asked if I'd sort of come over and check it out. Paul Phillips, who runs the show over there, he sort of chauffeured me around a little bit, and we had a big meeting, and there was no obligation. There was like, come and check it out. If you like it, we'll do it. If not, no drama. You can go back, and it's all good. And I got there, and I was like, it's a pretty intimidating place, but like I know it pretty well just from years and years and years of watching videos and stuff on it. Obviously, incredibly different until you get there and see it for yourself. But I kind of know where the track goes, and I feel like I'm riding at a level where I can back it off enough where I don't think I'm going to take too many risks.
Yeah.
And we're going to go there and give it a crack. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh my God, dude, that's living the dream. I mean, honestly, you've got to be, when you get there, is it going to be more of because I don't know how you do it, because you've done, like, with Pikes Peak, you've accomplished that goal, but is there a space where you're like a kid and giddy, like, I'm doing it, or you have to say like, okay, I'm here for a bit. Because me personally, I geek out on everything. So when I did the track day last week in Birmingham, I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna be him. I mean, that's just who I am as a person. That's why, honestly, if I ever meet Chad Reed, first thing I'm gonna do is apologize to him, because I'm always like, when I see him at MotoGP, he has that look in his face like, no, not him again. And I always, for the last 6 or 7 years, I always, Chad Reed, and I got this look like a kid at Christmas, and every year his face is like, hey man, and he's just like, he's nice, but he's like, no, why can't he just leave me alone? So is there a space for you that you allow yourself to go, I'm doing this, man, and you got that prickly feeling, and you're like, but you also have to go, okay, I'm here for business, I can do it, but is there space that like a little kid you that's like, I'm doing the Isle of Man?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, if you didn't have that excitement, like that's what drives a lot of this stuff. You get to go and do. I mean, I'm very aware of the position I'm in. Like, it's dream come true, totally. I've been wanting to do this since I was yay big, and so getting to do it's great. But you then have to go, all right, cool. I can do it. I know I can do it, but the work starts a while ago. So
how do you prepare? Now, how do you prepare for that? Because it's different. It's different from a track day. You're on roads, and it's also going to be on the Isle of Man. So you can't really train that way here in the U.S. So how do you prepare for that?
Yeah, well, luckily, we live in a pretty good age where we have very good video games. So the TT game on PlayStation. That's how I learned Pikes Peak. Was I got on? I had Greg Tracy's YouTube video. And I had the Sebastian Loeb Rally Evo game, and I would do 2 runs in the game, watch a run on YouTube, and then I just do that every day. It's that theory, that 1% theory. Just a little bit every day. So that's the same thing for this. I basically, I got to admit, like in the last year, I really I just kind of went, nah, and too many other things to worry about at the moment. So we're now a year out. About a week ago, I started again, where I'm back in the same thing, watch a run, watch a lap, do a lap. And because they're 20 odd minutes, on the screen and on the game, then that's 40 minutes out of your day. That's enough. Go away, go do your other things. Keep coming back. Just do that every day. Just keep doing the things and got to remember. I always try to remember if I get a couple of spare minutes, like I've got a lap on my phone from one of the guys from a few years ago, and so I'll just like skim to a point on the phone, and I have to stop there and remember what the next two corners are coming up, two are behind, and then it's pretty. Unless you're a bit of a brainiac, and I'm most certainly not. Like I can never remember all the names of the places, but I can remember at least where I'm going. So you just got to remember where you are, what's coming up, what's behind, and just keep doing that. I'm hoping to get back over there at the end of the year, and because they're still in lockdown over there, but hopefully they're going to open up by July, I think, and I'm going to try and get over there in probably November or December, just to do sort of 3 or 4 days in a hire car again, just keep lapping, just to try and get some more memory in there, and then we'll be back there in May next year to have a go at it. So this one's different to Pikes. Like this is like Pikes was an event that I knew from the second I got there. I knew I could do well at.
Yeah.
Whereas, you're really playing with the big dogs when you go to the TT. Like these boys do this stuff for a living.
Yeah.
So it's
legend, man. It's legend. You got Michael Dunlap. You got I think who's retiring? You talked about retiring. The old man.
Bruce Anstey.
No, I know about the other one. McGinnis. Isn't he retiring?
I don't know, man. I don't know if that guy will ever retire.
I think he talked about, but you're with the big guy. How do you prepare physically for that? Physically, are you doing anything different? Like you running, or you trying to get your cardio up?
Yeah. Well, it's like just came back from a run.
Good for you.
Yeah, I run every morning anyway, just to sort of clear my brain out and just to do that. But honestly, a lot of it is bike fitness. I've seen some of the fittest people on earth get on bikes and be shagged after 5 laps. There's nothing like bike fitness, and that's where the supermoto was so good, because it's very difficult. Basically, you go to a supermoto track, you don't get a break on a supermoto. Like it's up, down, left, right, go there, and that intensity, that being able to, like, what I'd usually do is I'll set myself a goal of a lap time, and I've got my lap timer on there, and you got to knock out 30 laps or 20 laps within maybe half a second, but like not make it so it's like a lap record level,
right,
but just something that is like fast and repeatable, so that you just get used to that repetitive nature,
and consistency,
keeping that mindset focused and doing that sort of stuff. And then, a bit of, cardio was always king. Carlin was very big on that. He was like, before Pikes, he was always very much like super into his cardio. He was a beast on a mountain bike. If you ever look stuff up on YouTube, that guy was gnarly as hell. So like, he was always on his mountain bike, and his cardio fitness was through the roof. And so when he told me about that a number of years ago, I started taking it a lot more seriously, and that made a big difference. So but mainly it's don't drink too much.
That's not like it's gonna be a problem for you. Like, oh, not the drink. I gotta stop drinking.
Gosh, it kind of is sometimes. I'm just like, another bitch. I need to try and pull that out a bit. Keep going on all of it. So it's all. But there's a whole bunch of things, but it's all common sense stuff. Just don't overcomplicate your life with stuff that doesn't really need to be there. Just have a clear mind and go there and have fun. Here's
the part that I never ask you guys, like, how do you explain that to the wife, or does she understand, and how does she understand? Because you have a wife, but it's like that bike is a passion, and it's like a lot of riding is fun. And how do you like look so forward to riding, but you gotta go, hey honey, hey, I missed you, and you're like, I mean, I don't know. There's a French movie where this guy wanted to be a motorcycle racer, but he has to keep a day job. And long story short, he had to help his ex-girlfriend out. She was in trouble with these drug dealers. He had to help her out, and he told him to run from the law on a motorcycle. And so they finally get their life cleaned up, and he doesn't have a shot at being a motorcycle racer again. But they're sitting in a restaurant. And he's trying to concentrate on her, and he hears this motorcycle, and she's talking, and you see it's eating him up inside, and he has to turn his head to see what kind of bike it is. And that scene is a scene for purists, for like people like us to like, the bike is everything. I mean, you love your woman, and she's talking, you're listening, but you hear that bike, you're like, and he had to just kind of turn and look what kind of bike it was. And it's that subtlety that people like you will get. So how do you compartmentalize that with your wife? I mean, does she understand? Did she come in knowing, hey, he loves me, but it's the bikes are here, and I'm somewhere around here. He loves me, but the bikes are here. Like, how do you compartmentalize that?
Oh man, she knew what she signed up for.
I'm going to show her this.
She knew it was going to be a different life. But, no, I mean, like it's that thing of like being in a huge bike family for generations. I mean, she knew that I was going to be involved in it. Probably didn't realize it was going to get to this extent.
I mean, have you ever had to explain it to her? I mean, has it ever got to that argument like, well, what's it going to be? The bikes? Or has it ever got to that? Or she goes, it'd be kind of nice if you like, would maybe spend some time with me and the kid instead of just going out riding. I mean, has it ever got to that? Has it ever gotten to that one time?
It hasn't got to that yet, thank God.
Okay.
But, I mean, I suppose that's the one good thing with having motorcycling as a job is that, like, after a while, like, I do tend to just take a bit of decompression and sort of move back a bit and go and drink some cocktails somewhere. But,
I wish I could hear, because I mean, you can talk a good game with this me and you here, but I wish she was there and I'm like, and have you explain it, because it's always a little different when they're there next to you.
Trust me, like it wouldn't. She would be like, yeah, that's basically it. But,
does she enjoy bikes as well though? Does she ride?
Yeah, she would come for rides on the back and all that, and I mean she's got all her own gear and whatever. But since the little guys rocked up, there hasn't been a lot of riding on the back, and because like being Aussies, we don't really have we don't have any family or anything over here, so babysitting is a little bit harder to come by. But now he's getting a bit older, he's 4 now, so we'll be able to start doing that a little bit more again. And we've had some great times. We've done a lot of riding together. Back in the early days, we used to ride everywhere, and yeah, she loved it, and it was always a great thing. I mean, it's always such a nice thing to go riding with your partner, and it's a good bonding thing. So yeah, that's just the way that our family kind of has always been, and too, like, even our friends back in Australia, like, we're all connected because of bikes, really. Like, at least all the guys are anyway. I mean, all the ladies and all of that, they're all become friends because their husbands have all become friends, and it's just sort of the way it is. But every one of us has got bikes, and that's just the way we are, kind of deal. You kind of gravitate towards each other.
Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, but you know how lucky you are. It's like I don't really have a girlfriend, but I got somebody I'm kind of seeing. And I think she understands, but it's like no matter how good of a time I have with her, I'm always thinking moto. Like, I remember being in a hotel room with her, and like MotoGP was starting up, and I was like, hey, listen, give me about 45 minutes, and I'd watch Moto 3 and come back, and we'd have a conversation like Moto 2's on, watch Moto 2, and then I come back, and when GP's on, I had to explain to her, listen, don't say a word to me, please. I'm not being mean, but Moto GP's on, and if you say a word, I'll have to put you out. I mean, and that's the way it is with me. So you know how lucky you are for somebody to understand that part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. Like, it's great fun, especially when, like, the little guy gets into it. Like, we'll sit down, and we've got a really good bakery up the road, so we'll go and get a bunch of croissants and come back and sit down and watch MotoGP together, and he loves it. And so it's all good. So I mean, it's who we are. This is the life. So
God damn, that's
this is how
beautiful.
it is.
It really is beautiful, man. And you know what's funny is I was gonna start off with this, but then we got started with your life and bikes, and I was like, yeah. And now it's like, oh, I forget, you're in this bagger racing league. You're racing. Yeah, and to me, it is what it is, but I think it's going to be bigger here in the United States, and I think people from Europe have a look like, these Americans are crazy. But the bagger race, please explain it to the people who don't know, because honestly, I don't know how to feel about it, but I think it's neat because it's something new and different. And I think I would love to see. I would love to see a Hell's Angels racing team. I think that'd be great. But I think it'd be so great to see those guys show up on the grid with like a leather, but then they had the vest and everything, like Hell's Angels Racing. How great would they have the tassels, Hell's Angels Racing, and nobody messes with those guys. They don't go hard in the corners with them or nothing like that.
Yeah, totally. Take a wide line.
So the people who don't understand, please explain the Bagger Racing League.
Well, look, to be honest, I'm kind of in the dark a bit about it. I mean, I know, I'm racing so Roland Sands, who, everyone knows who Roland Sands is. Like,
yes.
He asked me to ride his big twin, the Indian Chief big twin that they're building, which I was just so stoked at. Like, as far as I'm concerned, Roland is a god. And so to get asked by him to race one of his bikes was pretty cool. And so, yeah, they've built this bike. I don't know how many classes there are, but the main class is the actual bagger class that has, and they've got lots of big money bikes that go out to these things. I mean, like, you can build a bloody fast super bike for about a third about what some of these bikes are worth.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Dude, no doubt. Like the bike that Woolley built, so Michael Woolley, who was ex-Deus, now at Saddleman, Corey West is racing his bike. The bike that those guys built, man, like, you ain't getting much change out of 120 grand for that bike. Like, it's serious cash. Like, if you just say you walk up there and go, I want that. Because they have to build it. Like, they have to build most of the stuff on there. There's so much fabrication work that's involved in that.
Wow.
So, yeah, when he told me, I was like, I couldn't believe it. So, they've Roland. So that's for that's for the bagger racing. So yeah, bagger class and Tyler O'Hara's racing it. A few others, like, guys, serious dudes. And so yeah, then they got the big twins class, and that's the one I'm going to be racing in. It's basically the bagger class without the bags. So,
I look so forward to seeing this, man. That looks so neat. It's something new. It's, put a little, I think sometimes, you got to have people who aren't really purists in the sport to advance it, or at least have people, and it's got a little bit of a Ringling Brothers kind of Barker circus, kind of like, let's take a peek and see what the guys are doing. And I don't see anything wrong with that at all. You know what I mean? If anything, it's going to get more people to motorcycling, I'm all for it. So, man, I congratulate you on that, buddy.
Oh man, it's the most American thing ever for an Aussie. So I was stoked. Like, when I turned up there, I was like, because it's very much, it has that super hooligan kind of vibe to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that same thing. I mean, I remember when I was here about the same time when the hooligan thing started, and just to see how massive that got all around the world. Like, that was incredible. Like, when you look back on how subcultures within motorcycling have evolved, I mean, nothing went from that small to that big that I can think of for decades. So this is the evolution, really, of that, and we'll get out there and have a crack. And I don't know how long it'll last. I hope it lasts forever, but like, it might be one of those things that people get super pumped on and then kind of fade out and do other things. But who knows, man? Like, I'm keen to give it a crack and sort of run it for as long as I can.
That's what I love about motorcycling, and is the subcultures within motorcycling. You know, you got the Grom culture. You know, the people were stretching out that Honda, the Ruckus. You know, remember they had Ruckus crews. People were stretching out Ruckus. I mean, that's what I love about motorcycling. It's so great. I mean, the subcultures within the culture. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the good thing about it too, and this is what I mean, this is one thing I love about riding, just bikes in general, is that like most people that I can think of, most people think that pretty much every other subculture in bikes is cool, whether they can do it or not. I mean, like you watch Tony Bow, the trials rider.
Oh my God, yes.
If you're not impressed by that, man, you just like go do something else. Seriously, the guy's just like he's like a magician with a motorcycle.
Did you see him on the African Twin? What he did with the African Twin?
Yeah, insane.
He rode up the tree, straight up the tree. Oh my, yeah, man, that dude's incredible. Yes, yes.
So, but you see that, and then you go and see your Grom culture. You go and see like I love watching all the stuff that comes out of Japan. So like you see like the Japanese Gymkhana videos with the guys on pop bikes. Yes. It's like, man, you got no chance of outrunning those guys, dude. It's like, man, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Yeah.
MotoGP and bloody hooligan racing and then scooters down in Italy. It's like, it's all good. It's all fun.
Yeah, man, I do. I mean, God, no. Before I wrap it up, I want to get top fives out of you, man, because I know you've been around, and that's why I loved your Instagram. Like, and that's why I got mad. I go, why aren't me and this guy friends? I'm looking at everything you've done. I go, this guy, he rides like the way I want to ride. So I'm asking you real quick: have you ever thought about doing a Dakar since you've done everything else?
Oh man, I'd love to, but I mean, I would definitely love to do it. It'd be a hell of a thing. I'd love to do some. I've done some desert racing, but like I've never done road map desert riding. I mean, I'd love to do it, but it's just like that's probably a serious pipe dream, really. Like, you know, when you see some of the, I know a friend of mine in the UK is actually doing it next year. He's getting prepared for it, and he's doing a lot of stuff to do it on the side. I remember talking to Alexander Smith, so Malcolm Smith's son, and all the stuff that he had to go through to do his Dakar, and I think he did in 2016 or something, 15. And I'd love to have a crack at it, but yeah, I don't know. Unless I fall ass backwards into a pile of money and don't have to work for a year, maybe I'll give it a go.
If anybody can do it, man, I got faith in you, man. If anybody can do it, I got faith in you. Okay.
Yeah, totally.
So give me your top five dream bikes that you've ridden. Top five bikes that you've ridden.
The first one for sure is the Britain. So the Britain V1000. If anything, just for the story behind the bike and just how gobsmackingly beautiful the thing is, and you know, I was one of, at the time, I think 3 journalists prior to me had ever ridden one. Mm-hmm. This was back in 2010, I think. And yeah, I got to ride that thing, and that was just, I mean, if you want to see an incredible bike movie, One Man's Dream, the John Britton story, you gotta see that. Like, okay. I don't know. It used to be on YouTube, but I mean, if you Google it, you'll be able to find it. It's the story about how they built this thing, how these guys in Christchurch, New Zealand, built this bike, and you know, the dude's making crankcases in his wife's pottery kiln, water from his bloody pool. I mean, it's just the most insane story, and really tragic too, because obviously John died at 45 from cancer, and motorcycling lost a brilliant brain, you know, real sort of out there kind of guy, and so yeah, the Britain V1000. The best bike in terms of just like sheer awesomeness that I've ever rode was Johnny Ray's superbike, Jonathan Ray's superbike. That was wild. It was wild not because, like, yeah, it's super. I mean, the thing had a motor on it, like you just couldn't believe, but it was just so easy to ride. Like, I mean, people look at these things and they go, "Oh, these things must be bloody impossible to ride," but you could get on that thing and ride to the shops, no problem. Like, it was so plush, but it was plush but stiff at the same time. Like it was just this beautifully compliant suspension. And I got to admit, like I rode it at Aragon in Spain, and I'd only ever done 4 laps around Aragon prior to jumping on Johnny Ray's bike.
Yeah.
So I had no idea where I was going.
Yeah.
So, and I think they kind of made that the case so that you didn't push very hard. And I mean, if I'd gone to Valencia or something like that, or Catalunya, I could have given that thing a bit more of a caning. But I was so petrified of crashing thing, but also didn't know where the hell I was going. And because Aragon's a very difficult circuit to learn, didn't get as much out of it as what I could have. But yeah, that was just a fantastic bike, man, just awesome. I couldn't tell you how it's like at absolutely high level performances. I didn't get it there, but I mean, in terms of just like amazing bike, there was that one. Probably there's so many far out. I don't know. Like, I love riding trials bikes.
Yeah.
Like not any particular trials bike, but just I love the finesse that you got to have with trials riding. You and the stuff that you can ride up on a trials bike that you don't actually need. I mean, not Tony Bow level of skill, but like you just need to just have a bit of an understanding about what you have to do. And I've seen people that have never ridden trials bikes and get on with them and ride up a lot of cool stuff. And they teach you so much about, I mean, it's that thing of like almost like crawling before you can walk theory. Like you're very light, deliberate, subtle movements, and just being able to make a bike do little things here and there.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. I think it's very, very underrated, trials riding. It can teach you everything. I mean, like Kevin Schwantz grew up riding trials. I mean, he's one of the best Grand Prix riders of all time.
Yeah.
So like just those little finite motor skills. I love that kind of stuff. Geez.
How about the Desmo Sedici? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I just think the Desmo Sedici, I think maybe 2000.
I've never ridden the Desmo. No, never got to ride. I've ridden the Superleggera, but I never got to ride the Desmo.
I've always said that's the most beautiful bike ever. I mean, for me personally, the one I've ever seen, that's the most beautiful bike that I've ever witnessed.
I actually started one the other week, and we were at this guy's shop, Iconic Motorbikes in Santa Monica, and like I just fired it up and just gave a few revs, and it's like that thing revs like a 2-stroke, just chung, chung, chung. I mean, the crankshaft must be about that big, so it just bloody spins up so quick, and it's like, man, that's a racing engine. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
I think what else? I've ridden a lot of classic bikes. Like I've ridden matchless G50s and things like that, which are beautiful, dual little things. You know, very simplistic. Racing bike, 100% a racing bike, but very simple in their design. Very, very pretty bikes. Like you can go way quicker on a 125 Grand Prix bike, but that's not the point of the exercise. We had Dad had a matchless for years when I was growing up, and we had the thing in our living room, and because it was just a beautiful piece of art, really. So that was great, and I love all that sort of stuff. So I put the G50 up there. Geez, for the last one, man, I gotta say, like probably a bike that anybody could buy, which was in terms of not the overall experience, but just what it can do for you, where it can go, was the KTM 790/890 adventure bikes.
Yes, I love those.
Yeah, dude, those things are sick. Those things will make you feel like a god. Like you can ride up those things, ride them anywhere, do anything on them. Fantastic.
I had a chance to. I did a demo ride, and the guy was supposed to go with, follow the guy when he goes, BT, I'm tired, but he goes, here's the key, go have fun. He goes, but if you wreck it, it's yours. I said, okay. And when I left, I swear I wanted a cop to chase me because I wanted to go. Because my fantasy has always been the Dakar. Always in the back of my mind, no matter what I'm doing, it's always Dakar. If it's raining, I'm thinking Dakar. So I wanted a cop to chase me so bad in that bike. I got chased around it. That is the greatest, to me, it's one of the greatest bikes ever, man. Okay, one more answer before we leave. One more answer before we leave, man. We're running behind, I'm so sorry. But one more answer. The best country to ride in. Best country to ride in. One word answer. If you had to pick, gun to your head.
America. And I'm not saying that just because I live here, because we just got everything in America.
Yeah.
Like, you can go to, Australia's bloody good too, but America, you can ride mountains, you can ride desert, you can ride coast, you can ride lakes, you can do anything. Like, America has in terms of just in one country, I think America's got it as far as like the best ride. We've got some of the best racetracks in the world. We got it pretty good over here. It's not bad.
Greatest Australian MotoGP rider.
Casey Stoner.
Yeah. Yes.
Casey Stoner.
Yeah.
For me, I've seen that dude. Mick Doohan was amazing too. He was the guy who would just succeed through sheer bullheaded determination kind of thing. And same with Wayne Gardner in a way. But Christopher Mullen was a very good rider as well. But Casey just had that magic touch, man. I've seen him do things on a bike that should not be able to be done. And one of the cool things is every year at Phillip Island, I went to Phillip Island for 14 years in a row. And when Casey was in Grand Prix, I used to go to what is now Stoner Corner, Turn 3.
Yes.
Used to go there for final qualifying, watch him there. And dude, he would go through there. I get goosebumps thinking about it. He would go through there, and most people would go, and he would go, and just shut the throttle, get a little bit away on the front, and then just pull the trigger, and that thing was go, and it was just, he was light years faster than everybody else. And that was just in one section of the track. He was completely unbeatable at that circuit. But he's a bit of an enigma. He likes to keep to himself very much so, and fair enough too. But man, that guy was an absolute god on a motorcycle.
Oh, yes, Casey, man, you said it right there, buddy. From the bottom of my heart, man. I was looking forward to this because I love talking to people I never talked to before. We had no history at all, and I love that going in because it made me, more focused at all, on everything. But like I said, I saw your Instagram. I go, this guy, we should be buddies. You do everything. I said we should be, and because then people that I know. I know Heath from Alpine Stars. I know he left a comment on one of your things, and when you were backing into a corner, and some dude was like, "How did you do that without the traction control?" It was like, yes, and you got great stand-up wheelies, and I was like, me and this guy should be buddies. So now I'm following you on both my accounts, my Tales from the Gemini account and my regular one. So you're gonna teach me how to do a stand-up wheelie. When I see you, we're gonna teach me how to do a stand-up wheelie.
Yeah, man, we'll go riding. Let's hook it up. Let's do it.
Let's get with Alan. We're gonna go ride with Sport Bikes Inc. Because Alan, and thank you by the way, Alan from Sport Bikes Inc. He set this up, and I appreciate that. I just love finding new people to talk to and pick their brain. And man, honestly, I want to ride with you. I wish you the best in Isle of Man TT. If you guys get a chance,
Thanks.
Psycho News moto journalist Rennie Scaysbrook. Man, I cannot begin to thank you enough for this. I mean it from the bottom of my heart, man. Thank you so much.
Hey, man, get on a plane and come down to Utah and come to the Bagger Racing League in a couple of weeks.
Dude, you know what? You never know. I've got nothing to do and all day to do it. So I just might do it. From the bottom of my, I just might. I got my multistrada, my Pikes Peak multistrada named after you. I just might come and see you race, man.
Man, it'll be a hell of a time. Love a beer.
We'll love to do it, man. Hey, listen, I got to go. Rennie, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that. Thank you guys from Tales from Gemini for watching.
Thanks,
and like I say around this time, you know the word, peace.